came up with the title for today is Your Relationship with Copyright Well Complicated? So if so, hopefully at the end of today's session, you'll be able to say that you have a better relationship with copyright than maybe what you have right now. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you Yuhan Lee, an instructional designer in the Department of Distance Learning or online learning, whatever we're called. She has put together the information for today's session. So I want to make sure we give her a round of applause. Thank you so much. And putting everything together. And yes, thank you for coming. Without further ado, Yuhan, take it away.
Again, thank you for coming on this lovely day. Today's very meaningful day for those loved and are loved by someone special. And by seeing all your happy faces, just makes me believe that all of our hearts, we keep all the happy and precious moments with our loved ones. So today we're going to talk about the relationship with a specific person, and his name is copyright. So I noticed, as far as I see that name, I saw some like smiling and frowning faces, right? So I would say probably most of us, you have a complicated relationship with copyright. So hopefully by the end of the workshop, as Larissa mentioned, we could help you feel more love than hate, and also help you to strengthen your relationship with copyright. And so just as any other relationships, copyright is really complicated, right? What we offer today, they cannot be considered as legal advice, but more of a best practices and an overview of all the copyright basics. Things like, what is copyright, what it protects, how long does the protection last, and also, what are the rights it gives to the author, and its limitation and exceptions. Okay, and then the purpose is, by the end of the workshop, we can help you as the faculty to make an informed decision about copyright, and also the use of copyrighted materials for your online or face-to-face classes. But we're more focusing on the online courses. And so what is copyright? Simple but complicated question. So you can just see copyright as a form of protection provided by the law, right? So the copyright gives the author and creator all set of exclusive rights in the things they create or own. So specifically, those exclusive rights include, they will be able to, as author and creator of the work, they will be able to reproduce the work, to prepare derivative works, to distribute a copy of the work to the public, to perform and display the work publicly, and of course, to prohibit others from using their work without permission. So that's basically all the rights the copyright gives to the author and creator. And so what's copyrightable and what's not? For your work to be copyright protected, you have to be, the work has to be original, and also it's recorded in a fixed format. So those are the two criteria you have to keep in mind. You want to make sure the originality, and also it's recorded in a fixed format. And those are the type of things protected by the copyright law. And as you're already familiar, it can be literary works, it can be music, drama, pictures, graphics, sound recordings, or architecture. But there are also some types of materials that are not eligible for copyright protection. And those are like facts and ideas. So I saw someone probably get confused, like, what do you mean by facts and ideas not protected by the copyright law? That's the idea of having copyright law, right? But as we mentioned before, we protect the fixed format. So we protect the expression of the ideas and facts, but not the ideas and facts in our mind. So that's just one quick here. And also things like titles, names, short phrases, or procedures, or works developed by the U.S. government, they are not protected by the copyright law too. And also, lastly, works in the public domain because they belong to the public. And here we have a pop-up, please, just to see whether you were paying attention to what I talked about before. So what's protected and what's not protected by the copyright law? First one, which of the following are not protected by copyright? Were created by the federal? Yep. Because, government, they gather all the information and they are able to, they should be share all their work with the public. The next question, which of the work is protected by copyright? A, your spouse's unpublished personal journal. B, a movie from 1930 whose copyright hasn't been renewed. Third one, the latest report from the U.S. government. And last one, software code where the creator expressly give up all the rights to the work. Any guesses?
B.
B? So why is B? See here, which of the work is protected? So the correct answer should be A. Even it's not published, it's still protected by the copyright law. Whereas here, see, if it's a movie from 1930, so which year are we now? Like 2017? It's already passed like 70 years, and it hasn't been renewed. So that means that actually leads to the next question we're going to talk about. How long does the copyright last? It's not forever. It's it has a limited time for the protection. So in general, it will be the life of the author plus 70 years. If it's more than one author, then it will be the life of the last author's death plus 70 years. If the work is created by a business, it will be 95 years from publication. It will enter to the public domain. So any work in the public domain, it belongs to the public, and anyone, you can use the work, as much as you want and however the way you want. And so works in the public domain are not protected by the copyright because either the author, they dedicate the work for public use, or the work, the protection already expired without being renewed. Or it could be one of the types we mentioned before that are not eligible for copyright protection. So, works in the public domain is really good for faculty because you can use it without any permission or, giving credits to anyone. And here I found out some links for you to maybe, access and find the materials in the public domain. If you look for books, this is the project. This link is a good one, and then also for music, movie, and some pictures. So far we talked about all the good things about having copyright because as a creator, it really protects your interest, right? But we also want to make sure as a public, we want to make sure we have the ability to benefit from those works because essentially that's how our society develops, right? We build upon each other's work and make it better. So that's why in the copyright law, it has an exemption, talks about fair use. Fair use is a limited right to use copyrighted works without copyright owner's consent, but the use has to be fall under the confined circumstances. And the next slide, I'm going to talk about all the 4 factors you have to take into consideration when you want to decide whether your use will be fall under fair use. And those 4 factors, they are the purpose and character, the amount and sustainability, the nature of the work, and the economic impact. So if you look at it like vertically, you can just memorize them as 10. So that after you remember all the factors, your mind can be as clear as glass, and can make a better decision about whether you're using within fair use. So the first factor is the purpose and character. So in general, we know if it's for educational and nonprofit purpose, it's more likely to fall under fair use. But if it's for commercial use, and then you have to, think twice about whether you need, ask for permission. So that's the purpose. And then the other thing covered by the first factor is the character. So you have to think about whether it's, your work is a derivative work or transformative work. So what will be considered as derivative? For example, if you, for your online classes, you have a textbook, right? But you don't really want students to read the book. You maybe just read chapter by chapter and record it. So you created a podcast and upload it to my classes. But that will be only considered as derivative work. And you might have a weak case when you think about the fair use. But if you just show the film in your class, and the purpose is for students to, maybe watch the short clip and then have a discussion, right? Share their opinions and then thoughts about the work. That will be considered as transformative work because it might lead to a creation of entirely new work. And the second factor is the amount and the substantiality of the work. So we need to think about the quality and also the quantity of the work for your based on our previous experience, I know some people you felt like maybe 10% is a good number, but actually if you look into the copyright law, it doesn't really set, absolute limits to how much percent will be considered as fair use. So you can't find the exact number, but the general rule will be the less work you use, the more likely you will be, complying with fair use. And also, in addition to the quantity of the work, the quality of work is another factor. You have to, even though you only use a small portion of the work, it might involve, the heart of the work. So in that case, you still have to make sure, you meet both of the standards. And the second factor is the nature of the work. Again, in general, if you use like factual and nonfiction work in your class, such as documentary or data reports, so those are more likely to be considered fair use. But if you use, art expressions or dances or play a film, so those kind of nonfiction work, those are highly creative. Usually the fair use applies more narrowly to those highly creative works. And then last factor is the economic impact. So this one is pretty easy. You have to consider whether your use of the work will bring some, economic harms to the creator of the work. Again, those are the 4 factors. So another thing you have to keep in mind is when you decide whether your use will be fair use, you can't set them apart. You have to put them together as a whole to help you make the decision. So they really have to work together as a whole and in balance to help you see whether your use will be fair use. And then next, we came up with some common scenarios for you to see, whether this is a fair use or not. So this is the first scenario. So let's say a professor copies one article from a periodical for distribution to the class. I know we only give like very limited information. And your answer might be, it depends, right?
That's the Amber Alerts to nice kids, though.
What would you say? Or do you need more information?
I think it's good to go.
Because
It's only one. And it's choose within the class.
I think it'd be illegal if you just wrote it down yourself, but since you just flat out copy, know where the source material comes from.
Usually if you're giving it back, you're giving it with the full source citation.
yeah, that's a good practice. So again, here, as we mentioned before, even you kind of distribute multiple copies, but with the appropriate copyright attribution, and also it's for classroom use, so it can be considered as fair use, right? But if you want to, use the same material, same article repeatedly, from term to term, it might require some more scrutiny in fair use evaluation. So we might suggest faculty to vary the articles if you already use the same article, like for several semesters. And the next scenario, the professor wishes to use a textbook, things to be too expensive.
Yeah, that's not.
He makes a copy of the entire course class.
That's not.
Even though it's for educational purpose, because you make the entire copy, right? And it might affect the commercial market for the product, so it might not be considered as fair use. And next scenario, we wanted to add a book chapter to the library's e-reserve system for your online courses.
Yeah.
Is that a good idea?
And here at USI, you can do that really easy. Reserve.
Because, because we're using Blackboard, right? All of your materials, they're only available for students who are enrolled in your classroom, and then they're only, available for time.
And print.
So that would be the next question. What if you download the PDF, put it to your Blackboard for students to view? I know that's broad. Yeah.
Download what kind of PDF?
If you download the full source and cite it, it's okay.
What if
Any
it's a
other
PDF
thoughts?
of a whole book?
So let's just say it's not a whole book. It's just one chapter or just one article.
I would say no.
You say why you say
Alex?
no?
So this is kind of like what we've seen from online faculty. They usually they like to download the PDF and upload it to the Blackboard. They thought it might be an easier way for students to keep the content. But from a copyright perspective, this is not appropriate because the way our library they purchase the license for the article, right? And then how the publisher charge the fee would be, only if you click on the link, it will direct you to, the kind of the database, and then by the clicks, that's how they kind of track the views. So if you just download it and then upload it to your Blackboard, you kind of direct students to avoid that path. And it's hard for the publisher and also our library to track all the views and then kind of pay for the article.
And that's like the permalinks, right?
Right. So again, for your online courses, if you are going to use some external readings, I would recommend you to use the permalink. So do you know how to find the permalinks? Yes and no? I can show you.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
But what about in the case if you've got to do an interlibrary loan, get a particular paper? Should we then be putting it in the electronic reserve legitimately, or can we post that? Because what I've done in a case like that is that this is for use in this course only, and it's not for general distribution, is what I've put.
Right. So you put kind of a copyright notice for your students.
Right. Because most of my material I permalink, but occasionally there's something I can't get that way.
That is a really good question. So I think if you have specific question like that, I would recommend you to contact the library of Debbie Clark, and she will be the one to answer more specific copyright e-reserve questions for your online courses. So for example, if we just want to show you real quick how to find a permalink. Let's say if we do online teaching. Let's just use this one, right? You find the right link, and once you go to the database on the right side, you have the permalink. So don't copy the link here because it will be broken, right? You will do is click on permalink and copy the link here and put it to your Blackboard so that students, they can click on the link and it will direct them to the correct article.
And also, so students outside of USI prompts them for USI login if they're not physically here on campus. So it still counts how many times the link is clicked.
There are a couple of databases, and that's the perfect way to find them ordinarily. But ProQuest Health and Medical, and I think there's one other, that the process for locating those permalinks is not quite that simple. You actually have to start to download the document, scroll through it, copy the hyperlink, which is the permalink, to find it.
And the last scenario. Faculty member created a searchable database of the copyrighted materials. It's used as part of the online course and is available only on the institution's web server. A student enrolled in the course, they have access to materials from homework and other areas. They're not traditional classrooms. But the access to the database is controlled and available only to students enrolled in the class.
So wait a second, when you say searchable database of copyrighted materials, is it links to copyrighted materials or is it the actual copyrighted materials? Because I think that changes if it's legal or not. If you have a searchable database of permalinks to copyrighted materials, then I think that's totally okay.
So let's say it's a database of all the permalinks. It's
Yeah,
just
then
an
I
easier
think
way
it's fine.
for you to, right?
I don't know who this faculty member is. They're awfully intelligent.
So, and then I think as long as the access remains controlled, that's the biggest one there too.
Well, that's the biggest thing, even when I was doing copyright clearance, when people would bring me, they want to use copies of videos or a chapter from a book, and I write the publisher. Basically, anytime, they pretty much always said yes if I said it was in Blackboard and it was controlled and that only people who had access.
Right.
American Heart Association, they're one that's really bad about, they don't want to give you any access because, but they will tell you in education like,
And what you just talked about is actually TEACH Act, which stands for the Technology, Education, and Copyright Harmonization Act, which more focuses for online courses. It will allow you to display audio, visual, and other works for your online courses in a manner comparable to what you can do in your face-to-face classes. But here, this is kind of the prerequisite of, to be fall under the TEACH Act. That will be all the materials must be only made available to students enrolled in the particular course and only during the time period of that. So that's kind of another exception for using the copyrighted materials for your online courses. And the next thing we're going to talk about is all kinds of license of the copyrighted works. So one of the things we always heard about is Creative Commons. So what is Creative Commons? Basically, here again, we're not going to talk about the definition. Remember what we talked about the copyright at the very beginning of the workshop? It gives the author a set of exclusive rights. No matter you want them or not, you have all the rights, right? But here for Creative Commons, it actually allows you as the creative to reserve only those rights that you want. So for example, I might want other people to reuse my work, but only for educational purposes, right? And so by having kind of Creative Commons license on your work, it's actually an easier way to give other people the right to share your work and also build upon your work. So again, when you find a work online that has Creative Commons, you need to pay attention which type of license it has, and also, how can you, based on your situation, how can you kind of use materials? And here, just want to provide you some typical types of license for Creative Commons. Okay, this is the hub. See here? Traditional copyright is like all rights reserved. But here you have all kinds of license types. What you need to do is just to pay attention to the license type and then give credits to the authors the way they want. And lastly, here is a good resource, kind of provides you a framework when you do your copyright analysis. So first question you should ask yourself, is the work protected by copyright? Not, you don't have to worry about it, right? Then the next question, is there a specific exception in copyright law that can cover your use? And then, is there a license that can cover your use? And then the next question will be, is my use covered by fair use? And also here, you have a handout kind of to help you make decision about whether your use will be considered as fair use. What you need to do is just to, follow the steps. Again, consider all the factors, put them all together as a whole to help you make the decision. Okay, I think that's everything we have today. I know it's not a very comprehensive, in-depth presentation, just because I'm not a lawyer. But
Going on TV.
if you do have a lot of questions about the copyright for your online courses, highly recommend you to contact Debbie Clark. She's very knowledgeable about e-reserve, kind of how to better use copyrighted work for your online courses. And that's it. Any other questions?
Where did you say 5 minutes? What?
She said, let's talk about Walter.
Yeah.
Oh, I know, that was why I took your conversation.
Don't tell him.
So you, I saw like a bunch of books and stuff in there. Did you ever like look at any like software type thing?
I haven't. Most likely, I think for faculty, it will be like materials, videos, audio files. So I think one of the good things for you to develop your online courses, if you find a good video on YouTube, always either put the link or embed it to your Blackboard. Instead of just download it, well, you probably can't. But even if you can, that won't be, appropriate way to use the work. And also, whenever you finish developing the course, there you
Nobody
go.
else is going to do this?
No, I got all those Amber alerts for that girl last night.
I got them last night.
I'm going to get them today.
Double check if you have the citation for all of the work you put into your course. You can either have a kind of reference page on your syllabus where you list all the sources for the materials, or if it's only small part of the materials, you can just put citation under that item on your Blackboard. So that will be kind of the best practices you can do to help to make sure you are covered for using those work.
I have a question. If, I've been using like YouTube videos, putting them into VoiceThread, and is that violations of fair use, or it depends on the video, or
How did you get them into VoiceThread?
Putting the link.
put the link in?
Here's-
Oh,
Yeah.
links are good.
You're always safe.
Well, they'll watch it. They won't click on the
Mhm.
link. They'll just watch the VoiceThread.
Yeah, but you're always safe if you're stealing stuff from YouTube, because if it's copyright material, YouTube is
Okay.
policing that unless you're the one.
Unless it
Unless
was
you're-
right.
Right.
Yeah, they'll take it down. Unless you're the one
Like,
Not
putting
putting
the
it.
copyright
Right.
material
material on, then you're in trouble.
There's some faculty, they're like, oh, I want to show a movie in class. I found it on YouTube. Like,
Technically, you can still use it. We can't guarantee it'll be there
That's what we
because
do.
YouTube will shut it down. But if it's on YouTube, then it's
But we do, if you want to show a video in class, I recommend that you get the license to it, which we do for some of the business courses. I know the theater course has gotten some. Social work, we've done some for them. Swank video, you've got to pay for it, but it's for certain time.
So if you have a textbook and it has a CD with it that has video clips of teachers in the classroom that you want the kids, your students to be watching and discussing, and you can show it in your classroom, can you then put that on, like if your class goes online, can you use that video, that CD online without getting permission from the author, or do you have to pay the author?
What was that, Laura?
Does it come with the textbook?
It came with
Right.
the instructor's
Publisher.
textbook, not the student.
Okay. Because I know Gina Berridge had a similar situation. And she contacted the publisher and they allowed her to use it on Blackboard.
Yeah, they probably had to actually give her links to it because most likely your CD won't allow you to download it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
And also, I think I worked with, one of the faculty I worked with, he is from the art department, so he likes to use, he wanted to use all the pictures from the publisher for his lectures. So what he did is actually contact the publisher, and then they give him permission to put it online, so he can actually develop new set of lecture based on those pictures. But I think it will be always a safe choice to talk to the publisher first and make sure it's appropriate.
And a lot of times if you go on the publisher's website, it has a link where you can click, you're an educator, which says, here's the steps, here's what we allow, here's what we don't allow, and here's your content.
And going back to Casey's question, I think the key is you have to pay attention to the word copy. Did we make a copy of the work? If we didn't, then copyright, we might not need to worry about it because we don't actually make a copy of the YouTube video or any other work. We just, put the link so that through the link, you direct them to the content. The same case with the PDF thing. Any other questions?
Now with the YouTube links, you need to make sure they're captioned, which is another another issue. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that will be the kind of the ADA best practices. If just in case you have a student, who has special needs, make sure all the videos you use, they are closed captioned. Of course, for the video you created, you can always go back and edit the transcript. But if it's developed by someone else, then
I would say be careful with the captioning with YouTube because I've looked at some of the number of videos.
Accurate.
It's not accurate.
You mean you found one that was accurate?
No, they
Oh,
weren't.
okay.
No, they weren't.
No, I'm like, if you found one that was accurate, I would see it.
right, even though sometimes the transcript is accurate, but the punctuation probably is wrong, right? They don't really have that. Yeah. All right. If no other question, I think that's everything we have today. And again, thank you for coming. If you wanna, if you have a specific question about copyright, we can either collect all your questions and then send it to Debbie, or you can contact me directly.